Superman might be James Gunn's first step into the new DCU, but the DC Extended Universe casts a large shadow in its latest trailer. Welcome to Stats In. If you're just joining us, please subscribe and don't forget to turn on notifications bell for more video. Be it Superman being framed against the sun, or the character having to go through human red tape to do even the most basic of world-saving activities, Superman from the DCU seems like a rehash of what fans have seen in the DCU. Apart from the character's demeanor, which is overall pretty different from his previous iterations, there seem to be a lot of similarities in the visual languages of Superman and Man of Steel. When looking at fan reactions to James Gunn's Superman, it was evident that the general consensus for the upcoming film was that it is a return to form. There has been a lot of comparison between the Man of Steel that Zack Snyder had chiseled for the DCU and the Superman that James Gunn will be putting on screen in July. However, one cannot help but look at the similarities that are present visually in the trailer, which harken back to how Zack Snyder had framed Henry Cavill's iteration of the character. As different as David Corenswet plays Superman when compared to Henry Cavill, Snyder's fingerprints are all over Superman. Superman, much like his previous counterpart, seems to be caught in litigation for doing what he does best, saving people. The line of questioning that Lois Lane presents also points towards the fact that public sentiment is mostly against Superman, something that Zack Snyder also depicted in his works. Lex Luthor employing superheroes for his nefarious plans and stealing Kryptonian tech also seems like something ripped right out of BVS, Dawn of Justice. While the DCU's Superman might act differently and exist in a world truest to his comics, the parallels are undeniable when the comparison is drawn between James Gunn's and Zack Snyder's iterations of the character. James Gunn has been able to deliver pretty great work when it comes to superheroes, but Superman is unlike any of the films that Gunn has made. It is expected that there would be some concepts that would be carried over from the DCU, given that it did have some deep imagery that could serve the stories that Gunn is trying to tell. Man of Steel, despite how much critics hate it, has actually left a pretty big mark on the superhero genre in film. It is undeniable that the film has been echoed by more than a few superhero shows and films, which just goes to show that these decisions made by Gunn are actually pointing in the right direction. Given the connection that Superman has to the sun, framing the character against it is definitely something that Snyder perfected in his iteration of the DC Universe. However, one cannot blame James Gunn for echoing this shot in Superman, given that it is a pretty powerful image for a superhero and a symbol of hope like Superman. James Gunn's Superman trailer proves the DCU is in good hands. David Corenswet nails the cape and the glasses, and we're all in for a super ride. Welcome to Stats In. If you're just joining us, please subscribe and don't forget to turn on notifications bell for more video. While some would ask the obvious question of why people aren't able to realize the obvious similarity between Clark Kent and Kal-El, Superman's transition transcends his outfit. So, how does the most powerful being on Earth blend into a newsroom without raising suspicion? The answer lies in performance. The trailer for James Gunn's Superman is here, and I cannot stop singing praises. After a lot of uncertainty surrounding the new version of the superhero, it looks like David Corenswet and the rest of the team have proven that the new DCU is not here to play. Even though we lost Henry Cavill, we sure gained another gem. For decades, Superman has captivated audiences with his dual identity. The mild-mannered Clark Kent one moment and the godlike Man of Steel the next. Unlike other superheroes who need a mask to hide their secret identity, Superman's disguise is the change in his demeanor. Dare I say, David Corenswet nailed this. On the other hand, David Corenswet appears to have embraced the duality fully. In the trailer, fans can clearly see a difference between the two identities when Rachel Brosnahan's Lois Lane sits him down for an interview. Initially sitting with slouched shoulders, Clark says, "Let's do it, Cronkite." However, the moment Lois addresses him as Superman, his posture and voice both change, giving off a much more commanding presence. Comic lore has long emphasized Clark's persona with stooped shoulders, hesitant speech, and a softer voice. There is a striking contrast to his demeanor when he switches from Clark to Superman. This vocal and physical shift is his true disguise, more effective than any cowl. Even though I loved Henry Cavill's Superman, someone has to say it, this physical shift wasn't seen in Man of Steel, 2013. Sure, he brought a brooding, introspective touch to the superhero, and his performance was physically imposing and emotionally layered, but one key element was missing, a clear distinction between Clark and Superman. When Corenswet auditioned to play Superman, he thought it was nothing but a pipe dream. He once stated that he was fully convinced that there was no F*** king way it was ever going to happen, via ABC News. Of course, both the universe and James Gunn had a different plan. In fact, despite being one of the first auditions Gunn saw for the movie, Corenswet stood out from the rest. The director stated, "Instantly, it was a relief because he had a playful charm about him that was not evident in Pearl. He had a sense of humor. That made me go, ooh, this might be a really good match." By altering his voice and mannerisms, Corenswet creates a visible divide between the two sides of Kal-El. It's a small but brilliant detail that proves to be a subtle nod to Superman's ability to navigate the two worlds dear to him. And thus began Corenswet's journey of throwing himself into research for the role. In order to prepare for the role, the actor delved into the All-Star Superman comic book as well as Christopher Reeve's unforgettable performance in his movies. Moreover, he took inspiration from his brother-in-law, who, despite being 6'8" and 270 pounds, is the quietest, most wonderful man. He told the Associated Press, "That's where I sort of took the spirit of Clark. He's this big presence, but he's desperately trying to be as small as possible and as quiet as possible." In many ways, Corenswet's take on Superman feels like a return to the heart of the character. Playing the superhero isn't just about looking the part or being strong, it's about the duality that comes with it. If this is the Superman we are getting, then dare I say that the future of the DCU looks brighter than ever? What did Anthony Mackie say during a press game in 2015 that left superhero fans and interviewers completely stunned? Welcome to Stats In. If you're just joining us, please subscribe and don't forget to turn on notifications bell for more video. The superhero genre boasts some of the most passionate and loyal fandoms out there. So, when actors speak on these characters or movies, fans tend to listen closely, especially when the comments stir up the age-old Marvel vs. DC debate. The Marvel vs. DC debate has sparked countless arguments among fans, but it gets even more interesting when a celebrity jumps into the conversation. The same happened in 2015 as well when Anthony Mackie surprised a lot of people with his sharp remarks on Man of Steel. While the movie brought Henry Cavill's Superman to life, for Mackie, watching the movie past the initial 20 minutes was a tough task. In an interview, he didn't mince his words when he detailed his dislike for the movie, and let's just say he didn't exactly hold back. To this, he replied Man of Steel, after which the actor immediately said, "You're bananas. You're bananas." During a press interview for our brand Is Crisis via Collider, he was asked to play a fun game involving choices between franchises. However, instead of giving a light-hearted answer, he took things up a notch and voiced his strong dislike for the Cavill starer. In fact, he made it clear that he didn't like the movie at all, except maybe the first 20 minutes. According to him, once the opening scenes were over, the movie lost its way. He asked the interviewer, what was the last DC movie he saw that was worth watching? Marvel fans, buckle up,